The concept, I just want to say this, the concept they have of rewiring certain impedi, if that's a word, plural, that goes into your brain. Yeah, that's, I'll give them that. That's a psychological concept, but they make everything sound like it may not be like tomorrow, but it's going to go away. You're going to be good. That's not real. You can't, unless you know.
Well, what do you mean it can't be real?
It's not
real. They're doing it. They're saving mankind.
You should have shown them. You should have gone in there and like shown them your voiceover reel and offered to do a live voiceover reel, and just blown the lid off the place. You should have done that. Like, everybody here, this is all bullshit. You are being lied to. It is not real. Get them out.
Yeah, be like those TikTok people on the streets.
Yes.
Run for your life. Don't take the course. At any rate, I'm digressing, as I often do.
No, this is great. This is great. You were talking about going through the museum for the first time, and you're like, holy shit.
Yeah, and then the last step of it, you come into a room where there's a wall. You know how the music got really pretentious in the orientation video? You know,
yes.
Big overblown thing, yeah. So they crank up the music, and this, majestic thing happens where the walls part, and behind the walls that are moving out, it reveals all of these plaques that they've received from cities and countries around the world, all proclaiming L. Ron Hubbard as being this wonderful, brilliant man who's saving mankind. And I've seen how they do this. I mean, they did this in Clearwater when I was living there in 2000. The mayor read off a proclamation saying that this particular school, Clearwater Academy, was one of the finest schools in the country, according to the Concerned Businessmen of America. And the Concerned Businessmen actually wrote a declaration for the mayor to read. And then they said, we'd like to have 3 copies of this, one for the school, one for our records, and then one for us to display back at the Concerned Businessmen headquarters. So they get this done, and then the next week I went in to say, okay, what you just did is do Scientology's bidding, because the Concerned Businessmen of America is a Scientology front group. And when they say, we've looked at all the schools in the country, and this is one of the finest around, it's Scientology saying, give a proclamation to the Scientology school. And I explained to the mayor, now they have you on display. So when parents come to the school, they can say, look, the city loves us. The mayor thinks we're amazing. You should bring their kids here. So that's what they do from lowest level all the way up to President Clinton had sent something to them. And they brag about all these things.
Damn it, Bill.
Yeah.
God damn it.
Yeah. I mean, he's one of the closing. They do this type of thing in the orientation video, where they're showing plaudits from around the world, and I think the last one is President Clinton.
Oh, yeah. Oh, that's tough.
Yeah, but I mean, it's just another tiny little part of the scam. You know, how they can make themselves appear legitimate because they know what the public feels about them. They know how disreputable the organization's character is.
Now, when you say they,
the organization's Slappy Miscavige, essentially. You know,
right, because I'm thinking
most Scientologists. Most Scientologists think, well, we hear that Scientology is great, so that's all we hear. So Scientology is great, and they love us.
Because it seems like even like Mike Rinder was effectively like number 2. He was like the underboss, basically. And it seems like until he finally had his clarity, non-Scientology related, like, let's get the fuck out of here. You know, he was into it.
Sure.
Right? So I'm trying to psychologically, it's hard because I've never been a part of that, but I'm trying to psychologically put myself in a person like that shoes and wonder if I actually would recognize how many people think we're a joke versus if I'm Miscavige and I'm just Miscavige and I'm just crazy and obsessed on power. I may know it and not care. You know what I mean? Like this, you think the senior level people, they all know it?
Miscavige knows.
Yes, yes, I would agree with that.
There was a really tragic death at the Fort Harrison Hotel back in 1995. Lisa McPherson was a woman who was a devout Scientologist for many, many years. She had just attested to the state of clear. And like a month or two later, she was having a mental breakdown, and she got involved in a little fender bender accident right outside the Fort Harrison Hotel. And when the paramedics arrived on the scene, she had taken off all of her clothes and was walking down the street naked. And this female paramedic comes up and says, "Why are you doing this?" And she said, "I need somebody to pay attention to me. I need help." And they took her a couple blocks away to the Morton Plant Hospital. And she was checked in there. And within an hour, 10 Scientologists showed up at the hospital and convinced her to check herself out against the doctor's wishes. And these 10 people took Lisa back to the Fort Harrison Hotel, and she was locked up in a cabana there for 17 days, last 17 days of her life. And her mental condition worsened every single day. Yeah. By her last day, she had lost 40 pounds. And she was so weak, they panicked. Rather than calling in a doctor or calling an ambulance, they put her in a van and they drove her to a hospital, but not Morton Plant 2 blocks away, not another 5 different hospitals that were closer. They drove all the way over to a hospital where there was a Scientologist doctor on call. God. And by the time they got there, she was dead. And this doctor, Dr. Minkoff, who had been like prescribing medication without seeing her, he was freaked out. "Why'd you bring her here?" You know? And of course, Scientology did this major cover-up where they, when the police, found out about this, the person who was in charge of this at that point was the real second in command, Marty Rathbun. Mike was like the third in command for Office of Special Affairs. But Marty whisked all the people who were watching over her out of the country. And they started doing what they could to clean up the situation. There were people who were watching over Lisa every single day.
Doing what? Like security guard, basically?
Well, L. Ron Hubbard has his own theories because psychiatry, of course, is evil.
Oh, God.
So he has his own method that he developed called the Introspection Rundown or Baby Watch. So what L. Ron Hubbard said is if you're having a psychotic break, which they would never use that term, but if you're in this condition, people should not be talking to her. So even if she's like talking to you, asking questions, begging for help, you don't respond. She has to have absolute silence. Anything you might say in a situation like that when she's screwed up, that could cause more implants,
this is sadistic.
More engrams. So, you can't say a word. And there were people who were put on the baby watch who didn't even speak English, so they didn't have to worry about saying a word to her. I met one of those people. Just a couple of months ago, I met one of the guys who said, I had just come to the country like a month earlier, and I didn't know any English at all, and they had me watching over her. But the people who did speak English were writing down logs of her condition every single day. And you could see her condition getting worse and worse and worse.
She's losing 40 pounds and 17. I mean, yeah. My God.
But she's also, becoming increasingly demented. She's barking like a dog. She thinks she's L. Ron Hubbard herself. She's smearing her feces on the wall. They're forcing medication down her throat with a turkey baster.
What were they giving her again?
Exactly what medicine she was on, I don't remember. You'd have to search that up. There's a couple other doctors who were involved. There's a female doctor who was prescribing a lot of this medication, and she was not licensed in Florida at all to be doing any medical work.
And what was her condition again from the very beginning of the story when they first took her there? Was she already a little manic?
Yeah, she had been having some psychotic break at that point, and that's why she was saying, I need help. And unfortunately, the Scientologists, including her boss Benetta Slaughter, and some other people like Mary DeMoss, who was featured in a lot of my videos. She came out on the street to handle me quite often, and she was my favorite of the Scientologists because she was always...
To handle you?
Yeah, she was always brilliantly bizarre.
You ever let her take advantage of you?
No.
No?
Okay. I did ask her out. I said... I said, let's have dinner. Let's go to the movie. We're both actors. I thought it'd be wonderful.
Fuck the Scientology right out of you.
Anyway, so these circle of her friends, her peers, said, you can't be here. They're going to put you in a psych ward. Nothing could be worse than having an evil psych doing horrible things to you, electroshock, and who knows what they're going to do, but they're evil. So, she came back with them to the hotel, and that was, the end of it for her.
That's insane.
Anyway, I forgot exactly why I got
You were bringing this up because we were going through your course to getting into really going up against Scientology. So you got involved after this happened.
Yeah.
What went down there?
Yeah. At that point, in the beginning of 2000, Bob Minton, who was the retired international banker who had spent about $10 million helping people abused and defrauded by Scientology, he decided to open up the Lisa McPherson Trust in Clearwater.
She's been dead for several years now.
She had been dead for 5 years.
Right.
But much of this wasn't publicly known for a few years until there was a trial. So there's a criminal trial brought that a lot of this evidence came out. And then there was a civil trial that Bob Minton was bankrolling for the family. And we started the trust. There were 4 of us to begin with who were working down there, moved down there. I was in charge of the multimedia. So I was videotaping, I was creating videos and putting up our website, things like that. This was the most fascinating time of my life. To be invited there, to be part of this bizarre situation where these Scientologists were going just nutso in front of my camera. After a couple of years of them looking goofy on my camera, they realized, we should stop doing
Not a
this.
good look. Yeah.
Yeah. So after that, it became kind of dull. They didn't want to say anything anymore. But anyway, that's around when I got started. In 1999, back in L.A., I started doing videos. The first one that I shot was when 2 Scientologists came to my home to picket me. I call that the revenge picket.
It's a short picket.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, really short because I went out there with my camera and I started interviewing these guys.
Were they on your property?
They were out at the edge of the driveway.
So could you shoot them?
Well, I wasn't going to shoot. I shot them with the camera.
I was trying to get him to say, I could have.
I shot them with the camera, and that was plenty powerful. That morning, they had leafleted my entire neighborhood because I got a call from a neighbor saying, "Are you Mark Bunker?" And I said, "Yeah." She said, "I'm supposed to beware you." And she
Like
had
a dog. Beware of dog.
Yeah, beware your neighbor. Mark Bunker is not who you think he is.
That needs to be your campaign slogan. Beware the bunker.
Okay.
Oh, come on.
It's a little too late. I've got everything
we
printed
got
up
it.
already.
Let's do it. Come on.
So I knew, they had warned everybody that I was a dangerous individual, but at the bottom of it, they actually put in fine print that they were the Church of Scientology. And when people see that, they go, oh, well.
Right.
So we got a big laugh out of that. And there was a policeman who was living in the house above me. And I told him, listen, it's possible. I don't think it's likely, but they're picketing people at their homes now, so they may come and picket me here. And as I'm talking to him, I look out the window, and these two guys had shown up with big signs.
And this was a cop?
This was a cop.
And
yeah.
he wasn't loading the shotgun like,
No,
be my pleasure.
No one's shooting at them, okay? In none of my stories will Scientologists be shot at. Anyway, so I'm talking to these guys, trying to have a pleasant conversation with them, and within 3 minutes, I bring up Xenu, and one of the guys was not on that level, so he started walking away. It was like bizarre that there were security guards in Clearwater who would be following me with their camera, and I could say 75 million years ago, Earth was known as Tegiak, and they would put their fingers in their ears and run away. What kind of security is that?
Not brainwash security.
I mean, it's amazing. So it was a fascinating time. And after a couple of years of that, well, there you go. This is the very first video I shot.
Which, by the way, everyone, the link to Mark's channel is going to be down in our description. You can go subscribe to it. It's Mark Bunker. It's got all the stuff you're talking about today. You've just been building this for a while. Yeah. It's really good stuff. All right, go ahead and play this, Alessi.
I think I know more than you, bigot. Well, if you would consider Scientology a religion, I might believe that, but unfortunately, it's a cult.
That dude don't even look real.
Ready to be an
Yeah. All right. Ads.
Yeah, I got to give you my premium. Do skip. It's over there on the right. Yep. There you go.
You know, deep down inside, you're trying to harm something that is good and helps other people.
Well, deep down inside, I'm trying to help you, is what I feel. Because you probably don't know all of what your church does and all of what your church believes.
I know a lot of what my church does, and it's mostly helping people, So.
Well, where are you on the bridge?
Oh, Mark, I'm not going to listen to you.
Well, where are you online?
Where I'm on the bridge.
Well, just, you're here. I'd always like to talk to Scientologists. I'm trying to get your side of the story.
Have you ever done anything in Scientology yourself?
I went in, I took the personality test.
You've never
and
done
I played with the e-meter.
Played with the e-meter?
Played with the e-meter. Well, the e-meter is kind of a toy. I mean, it's...
So you played with the e-meter. So, in other words, you know nothing about what you're attacking. You know nothing about what you're attacking.
I think I know...
you know nothing.
More than you in many respects. For instance, I know about OT3, where Hubbard wrote that 75...
Homeless John Lennon's laugh is really bothering me.
Oh, my God.
And Tegiak was ruled over by the evil overlord Xenu.
He's walking away.
Stuffed us all into volcanoes and blew us up, thus causing all of the problems
that guy's
we
just,
still
he
suffer
is
from
perturbed.
today.
It's like, is this real?
Seems that all of those little invisible dead space cooties that were caused by the exploding volcano.
For people just listening right now who aren't on YouTube or Spotify watching this, go to YouTube or Spotify to watch this.
To clear yourself.
And I'm going to put the link to this down in the description so you can see this video on its own too. You can actually just do that.
Of course, it will cost you about $360,000.
All right, we got the point. Let's
there you go.
That, but wow.
Yeah, and the other guy who stayed there, Dan Mernon, he stayed for like 20 minutes, and we were talking before he finally gave in. And Dan is still in and still believes.
Blonde guy with the goatee.
Not the guy who walked away. So Dan, I saw like 10 years later, Anonymous is out in L.A. And Dan Mernon pops up there, and he's saying the exact same things to them that he said to me, a decade earlier. And he still believes that. He's still in.
Do you know anything about his backstory?
His backstory?
Yeah.
No, I don't.
That'd be fascinating.
I don't know how fascinating. I mean,
well,
it's just...
no, I'm saying like to do an autopsy of how someone gets that brainwashed.
Yeah.
Like where did they come from to be in a position to become that?
That's your basic Scientology position. I mean, once you get sucked in, you're supposed to be heading toward that. That's the goal of L. Ron Hubbard and Miscavige. They want you to believe anything that they say and nothing that the public says. And you have those blinders on, so you won't hear anything else that's said. At any rate, I mean, it's sad.
What year did you say that video was?
That was 99.
Okay. So now you're like heavily involved in everything. Because we're at this point, obviously, you're now even going to city council. But between then, I think a really important point that I was completely uneducated on that you walked me through on the phone about Scientology that can help people understand why they're able to hold such an iron fist over at least part of Clearwater is how they're essentially building their portfolio for the church. So you talked about Miscavige is essentially buying all this real estate all over Clearwater and in other places, but let's focus on Clearwater. Yeah. And filling it with nothing. He'll own buildings that are essentially abandoned ghost towns that are near the Scientology Center, so that it's almost like they create a Scientology ghost town for their entire part of town, which, by the way, also costs the city of Clearwater untold amounts of money for, if real businesses were able to go in there and actually add to the economy.
There are very popular downtown areas right around us. Dunedin is 10 miles away at the most, down the Fort Harrison Boulevard, right on the water the same way Clearwater is. They have a happening Main Street there. It's a much smaller city than Clearwater, but people dine there, shop there. It's an incredibly popular spot, especially for people in Clearwater who have nowhere else to go. And there's another place, Safety Harbor, which is right nearby as well. Very wonderful place to go and have a meal, and the place is always popular. We're dead, and we have been ever since Scientology snuck into town in 1975. They have turned it into a nuclear radioactive dead zone, and they like it that way. They have a campus there that Miscavige wants to keep people away from. Miscavige doesn't want prying eyes seeing anything that we shouldn't see.
Well, he's so small, I can barely see him. So,
well, there you go. You can take some binoculars with you and look down at them. But the thing is, there are people that I'll encounter. Like when I was running my first campaign for city council 4 years ago, knocking on doors, introducing myself, everyone had stories. Everyone had questions. Everyone was concerned. Pretty much every candidate says when you knock on the door, the first thing people ask is, "What are you going to do about Scientology?"
Oh, wow.
And I have the ability to say, well, I've been helping people abused and defrauded for 25 years now.
Wow.
And you may have seen me on Leah Remini's show, Scientology in the Aftermath. And so immediately people say, give me that clipboard, I want to sign a petition for you, and you got my vote. So that helped me in the first campaign, and that got me elected. Because it was pretty much this crazy guy talking about Scientology with no political career before this.
Outsider, yeah.
Yeah.
And you also said, like, people, you were telling me on the phone, people on the council historically are very afraid to talk about it publicly. Obviously, they may talk about it privately and not like it, but there's a fear there.
Well, historically, that wasn't always the case. I mentioned Gabe Casares, who was the mayor when they snuck into town. Gabe continued to actively speak out against Scientology for the rest of his life. And I got to know him when I moved there in 2000, and we became friends. So I spent a lot of time with him. And also Lieutenant Ray Emmons, who was the police lieutenant who was in charge of investigating Scientology for 20 years. I got to know him pretty well. Now, at that point, there was such an uproar. No one was afraid of taking on Scientology. Everyone on the council understood that this was a problem. And in 1982, after the FBI raids and all sorts of other stuff was uncovered about what they did in Clearwater, the city council held hearings in our council chambers for a week where they brought in an attorney who was representing a lot of people who had been former Scientologists or ripped off by them. And he brought in people like Paulette Cooper, the woman who wrote the book about Scientology and was attacked. L. Ron Hubbard's son, L. Ron Hubbard Jr., he came to testify.
When did he leave his father's care?
They were working together in the 50s, and I think somewhere in the 70s they had a falling out. Hubbard Sr., who was in hiding at that point, Jr. tried to have him declared dead because there was no sign of him. So he went to court and tried to get this done, and then they faked. Well, they didn't fake, but they couldn't bring Hubbard forward because they would clap cuffs on him and take him away. So they would do things like I think he wrote a signature on something and they put I don't know. They tried to pretend that, hey, look, it's a signature.
He's alive.
He's alive. Yeah. So by then there was a family rift, and Junior had written a book with another co-author, ripping into Dad.
He knew it was all a scam.
Yeah. Yeah, but then they attacked him viciously, and Junior said, "Okay, I'm gonna settle, and I'll take back everything. Just leave me alone, give me the money, and I'll shut my mouth." So for a week there were these hearings, and Scientology had the option to come and give their own testimony. And they refused. At the end of the week, their attorney, who's not a Scientologist, he was just the top criminal attorney in the city. They always paid, the guy who is the big hotshot, they'll hire them. And he came and talked for like 10 minutes saying, "This is nothing. This is nonsense. We're not even going to respond to any of this." I got videotapes of that entire week's worth of testimony, and I put that online back in '99, and you can still see it on that channel. So if you're interested at all in seeing what it was like in 1982 when no one was afraid on the council to take them on,
versus now,
that's what it was like. And unfortunately, over the decades, that faded away.
Is that because more and more Scientologists settled in Clearwater and because of the financial influence Miscavige has?
No.
Why is it?
What it is this is a problem that Clearwater itself couldn't solve. So they went to the state officials. They went to federal officials. They said, "We need help." And people on the higher levels, they said, "Are they going to come after me? Are they going to attack me?" It's a religion. So no one helped. Clearwater at one point passed a law saying that if you're not a religion, but if you're I can't even think of a simple phrase like nonprofit. If you're a nonprofit operating
Like
here in the city,
501c3 type.
yeah,
thing?
yeah, you need to open up your books for us to check out. And clearly they wanted to be able to see Scientology's books. Scientology took them to court, and they won. And
How'd they win?
They said, listen, we have religious standing here. You can't just force us to open our books to you. And the court made the city pay them $1 million. After that, the city said, we can't afford this. And no one's helping. Let's just shut up about it. And
that's what did it.
Yeah. So by the time we came to town with the LMT in 2000, the city was upset with us for bringing trouble to the city. They had Scientology off the front page of the paper. And us coming there brought Scientology back to the paper. And people in City Hall thought, well, we're the problem. If we weren't causing all this trouble, then Scientology, who are the ones who are going nuts in the streets of, protesting us, this would all quiet down and no one would even know Scientology was here, which was nonsense.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Because, from 75 on, nobody wanted to go downtown because of Scientology. And when I came to town, one thing that Scientology did was protest the police department. They were marching around the police department at one point.
Why?
Because Sid Klein, the police chief, was investigating Scientology, So they were walking around with signs saying, Sid Klein, what's your crime? Sid Klein, what's your crime? So I came to town and I knew what the police had been going through. And one of the first things we did was go to Martin Luther King Jr. breakfast. And the Sid Klein and his police chiefs were all around him. And I thought, well, I'm going to go say hi. And I went over to him and I put out my hand and said, it's a pleasure meeting you. I want you to know I'm a big fan of the Clearwater Police. And he wouldn't shake my hand. He just glared at me and said, if you get my way, I'll arrest you. And I went, oh, this is not what I expected when I moved here to Clearwater. And
did he think you were a Scientologist?
No, he thought I was a pest. I was causing problems that he was going to. But that was the general feeling. Bob and Stacy Brooks are the president of the LMT. Went and sat with the then city manager, a fella who used to be a city manager in Miami. Can I think of his name right now? No, I can't.
All right. You're remembering a lot of good stuff today.
Yeah.
You're doing good.
So this guy says to Bob and Stacy, we got Scientology off the front page of the paper, and you're putting them back on there. And he threatened them that he would shut us down. And I think that was a rude awakening for Bob and Stacy that this was happening. But meanwhile, the public were behind us, and while we were there, we did help a few people get out of Scientology. We educated a lot of other people.
Wait, how'd you do that? How'd you get them out?
There were people, like my friend Tori Chrisman. She was actually, it was the internet that got her out. Tori was a member for 30 years. And I met her in L.A., where she and her husband lived, at some of the protests. So she would come out to handle the critics when we were out there. And I have videotape of her coming up to me the very first time. Yeah, that's Tori there. This is when she's out already. But when I first met her on L. Ron Hubbard Way,
You can. I'm just asking you, why can't you, communication, communication is the universal solvent, but it's not solving here.
You'd say that you did something in Scientology, right?
I was up to OT7.
Right. So
For 7 years.
Apparently it doesn't matter, does it?
It didn't work for me. And I don't know how other people it didn't work for. Apparently not. And it wasn't that I was a failed
Oh, I love the alien blow up right there.
Yeah.
That's
You know
good.
what I say?
so this
good.
guy was a
Some people
current
I believe-
Scientologist. So the roles were reversed. When I met her, she was the one saying, "Well, what are you doing here?
We're so nice.
Yeah.
Come on, it's a beautiful religion."
First time she came up to me, she put on a really bad English accent and lied about her name. I said, "I'm Mark Bunker. Who are you?" And she said, "I'm Margaret. What are you doing here?" And
These
we
people
had
are
a
too stupid to be
we had
true.
a pleasant little conversation. And then I would see her at a few other protests, and we always got along well. She and her husband, JR, was the name he was using. I would talk with them, and they were nice people. And I'm nice, so we got along fine. There were a couple other critics that were a little harsher, and they didn't like them, but I'm adorable. You got to admit,
You are a very nice guy. You disarm people very quickly. I'm surprised these people. I understand it's like, well, I guess I shouldn't be surprised, but normal people, I would think, would be able to at least calm down and have a conversation with you eventually.
yeah, you'd think so.
Yeah.
Like Tori could. So the LMT had opened, and this is like a couple of years after I met Tori. Tori, meanwhile, was still fighting with me online when Battlefield Earth came out. Oh, that was a fun period. I took my camera to the movie theater for the premiere, and I grabbed kids coming out of the theater to get their reaction. And it was all stinker, the type of stuff.
You're the
Put that
TMZ
online.
of Scientology.
Yeah.
Effectively, right?
So there was a website for Battlefield Earth on the Warner Brothers page, and there was a forum. So Tori, under a different pseudonym, and another Scientologist were on there constantly writing things like, "Oh, I just saw it for the 4th time today. I'm taking my kids tomorrow." And I would respond in my own inimitable way and point out some of the things that were less talked about there. Like, for instance, I put up a review of the first draft of the script before the film was released that showed how horrible it was. I reviewed that and printed it, and suddenly there's this remarkable rave for the movie from this other dude, and I went online and hunted down this guy who did the review, and it turned out that he had a bio on another site saying, "And this year, he's being paid to do publicity for Battlefield Earth by the Church of Scientology."
Oh my
So
God.
I would go onto the message board and put the link there and say, "See, that's what it takes to get a rave review. You have to hire somebody to do that." And she'd get so mad at me. And I didn't know it was Tori until later. But she had had enough, and she announced online that she was leaving Scientology. And it was recommended by Andreas Heldo Lund, who had a website called Xenu.net, which is still out there. Andreas died just recently. But Andreas said, you should go talk to the people at the Lisa McPherson Trust.
Mm.
So Tori called us, and Stacy came in to say, "There's this woman on the line who says she knows you." And she gave the pseudonym of the person who was attacking me on the message board, and I went, "Her? She's horrible." But then she put me on the phone with her, and I recognized Tori's voice immediately. "You? I love you." And yeah, she was trying to strike an effective blow. It's one of those things that I didn't really hate me, but she had to stop the negative in theta, is what Scientology calls it. So then she came down to Clearwater, and we gave her sanctuary there and helped her decompress.
What's that like? Because
It's not easy.
How many years had she been in it?
30 years. And she lost her husband over it.
Oh my God.
He disconnected from her.
30 years.
Yeah.
Destroyed her life.
Yeah.
Suddenly she's like, oh my God, woke up. And then you have her in a room drinking coffee. Like, what is that conversation like?
Well,
Took you long enough.
I was not perhaps the best exit counselor. Let me say about being in a room with her. When she came to Clearwater, she had a ticket from Bob Minton to fly from LAX to Clearwater. And when she got to the airport in LA, a Scientology bigwig was there to meet her and say, Tori, you can't go. You can't go with these people. And Tori called Bob and Stacy, and Bob said, I'm going to get you a first-class ticket so you can go in the lounge where she can't go. And he did that for her. And then she had to switch planes in Chicago, and her husband was flown out there to meet her at the transfer to say, you can't go talk to the people at the LMT. You can't. And she said, I'm sorry, I'm going.
Wait, is that a new husband?
No, this is Harold, the husband who would eventually disconnect from her.
Oh, I misunderstood.
They're still together.
that.
I'm sorry. They were together at this point until she decided she'd had enough.
I thought it was he during that 30 years.
He disconnected. But it was after she had come down here and said, okay, I'm totally out.
Wow.
Anyway, he met her in Chicago, and then he flew down here and found out where she was staying. And she was staying at a hotel room that we got for her at this nice place. And I was there when Harold came to the door. And Tori was in her nightgown. And Harold, the door opened, and Harold saw me and Tori there and was not at all thrilled with the very sight of that. There was no hanky-panky. It was just something that he wasn't expecting. He did.
I don't believe him. I think that's Mark's secret. He's like the Hugh Hefner of anti-Scientology. It's like, come on down to the mansion. You're going to leave reformed.
It'd be nice if women were throwing themselves at me. Unfortunately,
okay.
There's still time, ladies.
Let's get some hidden cams down there by his place. See what's going on. Okay.
So I'm not exactly sure where I was going with this, but
we're talking about people who left the church.
Yeah.
And like what it's like. Yeah. It's a crazy, crazy journey because there's people who are in this thing for way longer than I've been alive. And I try to imagine, and you can't, what that's like to adhere to something and then suddenly one day be like, you know what? It's all a lie. Yeah. I got to go.
Okay. Here's why I said I wasn't a very good exit counselor, because that wasn't really my position. But we took Tori up to Bob's home in New Hampshire, and she spent some time with us there. And Bob and Stacy were in the house. I was out on the lawn with Tori, talking to her, and Tori's telling me about all the wins she had. It wasn't all bad. I had so many wins. And I said, well, yeah, but I think the people at Jonestown would have told you they had wins before drinking and she burst into tears. And it wasn't anything, I thought I was being logical.
That's a great line.
When you're in a group like this, you're getting something from it until you realize, no, I'm not.
Wow.
But she, that did not go over well. And I went in where she was crying, and Bob and Stacy said, what did you say to her? And I said that, and they went, no, you didn't. I went, okay.
I'll bet that was important though.
Well, I don't
because she's upset about it obviously at first, but then when you get a minute to think about it, like, whoa.
Yeah, probably there's a gradient scale. We should wait a while before spring or something like that when she's in a delicate condition to begin with. So it's just me, a dope, thinking, well, I'm being logical.
But what happens to a woman like her once she does meet with you guys, and now it gets back to Scientology? Like, oh, we lost her, she left. Does she get PIs put all over her by Scientology, or threatened?
Yeah. They at that time they were absolutely checking up on people. I don't remember her being terribly afraid of it, but she was convinced that people were screwing with her car and things like that. But it's a journey. It takes a while to peel away those layers.
Yes.
And she became one of the biggest spokespeople and helpers of getting other people out of Scientology following that. And she's got a beloved following. One of the things I did right away is bought her a webcam so she could be doing her own videos from her home. And so there's a lot of people who know her and love her.
That's great. Yeah. And you need people like that. It's so impressive when you see the depth that some of these people who have left are willing to go to on camera, because in some ways you could be like, you might be a little self-conscious of it. You were in it for so long, but once you hear them talk, whether you watch Going Clear or you watch the documentary you were in with Leah, it's not like a lot of them are dumb people. Like, a lot of them are actually pretty smart people.
No,
and now they've come to.
Yeah, and that's the thing, because that's the first reaction I had when I found out about Xenu. I thought, well, you got to be really stupid to believe this stuff, but you don't hear anything about that stuff for the longest time. It takes you a lot of money and a lot of time before you reach the level where they say, okay, I think we can trust her enough to give her this OT material. And believe me, you have to jump through hoops to prove that you're worthy of that. Because they know that, I've talked to at least one person who said, they gave me the material, I read it, and I went, oh my God, what have I been doing here? And they left quietly.
Was that Paul Haggis?
But for most people, no. This was a woman that I had encountered at there was a group that Dennis Ehrlich was actually a part of. There was a woman, Priscilla Coates, who was a woman who was helping members of former cults of various stripes. And every Sunday at her house, she would have like a meeting with people who were Scientologists, Moonies, things like that. And they invited me over one time. And this woman was a Scientologist who told me that that was her experience. She just walked away after seeing that. But that's not always the case. You're expected to be ready to believe anything Hubbard told you at that point. It's a fascinating story. It's a difficult story, but I thought that people had to be stupid, but you realize that no, these are smart people. They're dedicated people. They're good people that really believe they're saving the planet. So I can't say that I've met any Scientologist that I dislike except one. There was one guy, Dennis Clark, who was this big brute who was punching people, and you can see some of that in one of my videos. There's a video called Scientology and the Clearwater Police, which was a 20-minute video I did back in 2000 to show what it was like when the police officers were working off-duty for Scientology. Scientology realized, hey, we've got the money. We can pay an officer to sit down here on the street, and we can feed them the steady stream of negative stuff about us.
What did you say you told me this on the phone. Did you say their coffers are estimated at like $3 billion or something like that?
I think they're at $3 billion now, yeah.
Wow. Okay, so what are we looking at here on the
screen?
This
is a video that I did that showed some incidences where it sure seemed like the officers who were being paid by Scientology were willing to do Scientology's biddings or not to pay attention to anything that we said.
Okay, let's play this right here.
Shirt walking off to the right.
Yeah, that's the city manager who
hired the first pair of off-duty police officers. But the rules change daily.
I just want a clear, firm response from the police department on what the rules are here.
In bending over backwards to appease Scientology, Roberto and the police department created new laws on the spot that even its own officers couldn't understand.
So I can't go across the line now? No?
Even worse than the confusion over how to manage the white lines is the byproduct of the creation of this rather unique bus unloading zone. You see, now a large percentage of the Clearwater police force work directly for Scientology. Whoa. And they're supposed to report to Mike Rinder, the head of the Office of Special Affairs. Again, this is the new name for the Scientology department that once broke into the FBI and the IRS, stole documents, bugged offices, and that to this very day continues to destroy the lives of those people Scientology perceives to be.
I got... There's two things I would really like you to go through from this, because this is perfect, because it just came up. Number one, this video is made years ago, long before Mike Rinder actually left.
Yeah, he was still in.
Right, so he was still in, obviously.
I have video of him trying to have us arrested.
Oh, my God. And now you're like friends with him.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because he's out.
Sure.
Okay, so first question is, what happened when he got out, and how quickly were you in contact with him, and what was that like?
He got out because they pulled him out of the hole to handle a PR flap when the BBC did was doing a story on Scientology. There's a terrific journalist there, and again, forgive me. I'm blanking on his name right now. John Sweeney. So John Sweeney is like the Mike Wallace of the BBC. Nationally known guy who's really terrific. And he was doing a piece on Scientology where there was a new PR person for Scientology, Tommy. Tommy something or other.
Okay. Tommy Scientologist.
So Tommy, I should know this. He's Ann Archer's son, but it's not Tommy Archer. But at any rate, this guy was taking over the job that Mike Rinder did before Mike Rinder was thrown in the hole. And there was such a flap from this show that Miscavige pulled Rinder, the emaciated, pale, thin Rinder, out of the hole and said, "You get over to England and you handle this right now." And so John Sweeney in the BBC show is asking Mike Rinder, does David Miscavige beat people? And Mike's going, "No, of course not." And Mike Rinder is one of the people that Miscavige was beating. And yet,
he's walking in there with a black eye, cuts all over his face and shit. Nah, of course not.
And really, at this point, he looked like death warmed over. So this continued to be a bad situation where Miscavige was furious about how Tommy did and how Mike did. And this was not being stopped. This was still going to air. And things got so bad for Mike when he was over there. He just said, "I'm done. I'm not going back. I'm out of Scientology." It meant that he'd be losing his wife and kids and every friend who was a Scientologist. But he had come to the breaking point and said, "That's it. I can't do this anymore."
And when did he contact you?
I didn't really meet him for probably a couple of years after that.
What was that like?
Well, it was interesting. We had lunch and at a nice restaurant in Dunedin, because there were none in Clearwater. And I remember one of the, he was a good guy. We had a nice chat. And I asked him at one point, "So what did you folks think of me?" And I was hoping there'd be some, "Oh, Mark, your videos were such a pain for us." But it was like, "Oh, Mark, you were the friendly videographer who would wave at us. We didn't really think about you." "What? I'm supposed to be tearing this place apart, destroying Scientology. You're not even thinking about me. And then after that, I think we met that time because I wanted him to sit down and do an interview with me, and that went well. So he said, yeah. So I then took my equipment over there and did a long form interview with him shortly after he had left. It was interesting. We've remained friends. There have been times when, like, I took him with me and Aaron Smith-Levin to talk to the FBI about the racketeering with these buildings.
And you said the FBI won't do shit about this.
FBI said, if you got to have evidence, you got to have somebody who's in right now who comes out with evidence or says, if you go to this room, open up that desk drawer, you'll find the evidence you need.
He owns the buildings; they're all empty. How's that not evidence of something?
Well, it doesn't prove that there's some coordinated effort to do this, but. If there was someone who could say, yeah, here's the planning thing that Miscavige put together about this. But the FBI says we have to go to a court to get a warrant to go in and do a raid.
That's the first time the FBI said we need a warrant for something. Jesus Christ.
I don't know about that.
I'm kidding.
Yeah.
Some things it feels like they go to these FISA courts. We've seen it. I've had guys on here on the podcast where it's like, yeah, just toss that through. And they toss it through. Yeah. So if they really wanted to do it, they could.
They probably could, at any rate, that and we had we hired a new city manager and a new city attorney a couple of years ago, and I had Mike Rinder come in and talk to them to explain what it's like dealing with Miscavige. This is not like anybody else that you've had to deal with. This is a particular problem, and. I want to show you one other part of that police video in just a moment, if we can go back to it.
Yeah, we can't show that Battlefield Earth thing unless it's a trailer. We definitely cannot do that.
It's scenes from the trailer, actually, I think. But what was I talking about?
We were talking about Mike Rinder. I actually, in the meantime, if you don't mind, while he's pulling that up, the second thing from that video you had mentioned that I wanted to ask about was the IRS thing. What happened there? That was like a giant war. I think this is really important to describe just how far the Scientology religion's willing to go.
Sure. Before we get into that, can you move just a little bit farther on here? You're going to see a scene where we're in the street, and there's a guy who comes after me with a hammer.
With a hammer?
Yeah. Oh, this section right here.
All right, go to 7.
I'm with a couple German filmmakers who are trying to interview a Scientologist artist, painter.
Press it.
And we go to his house, and they're knocking on his door.
We believe these videotapes show a clear pattern of bias against the Lisa McPherson Trust on the part of the Clearwater Police Department. This first piece of footage was shot on February 1st of the year 2000. 2 German filmmakers had asked me to come along as they shot a documentary about a famous German Scientologist artist who now lives in Clearwater. The day before, the German filmmakers had gone to the police department and asked if it was legal for them to knock on the door and ask for an interview. Wayne Shallor, the police spokesperson, assured them it was. As we headed back to our cars, a man ran out of the house with a hammer.
Uh-oh.
What if I smash that fucker for you? Oh, smash it. You better go. I called the cops. Get the fuck out of here.
Is this?
Get the fuck out of here.
On the public.
Yeah, well, guess what? I'm on the public property too. You wanna start some shit with me?
Ooh, feisty son of a bitch.
The man's name was Richard Barnard, and he claimed to be an electrician doing some work inside the house. Barnard struck the camera twice with a hammer and once with a screwdriver. But even more unsettling than the attack from Barnard was the reaction of the Clearwater Police Department.
Police is coming.
The first to arrive on the scene was Officer Terrence Kelly. According to recently released documents, Kelly is one of the police officers who works for Scientology on his days off.
That's okay. Can you explain?
Yes, these are German documentary filmmakers who are here shooting a film about Scientology. They've had several documentaries that have been produced already. They're trying to get an interview with the person in this house here. These 2 gentlemen, and I came along just to videotape to make sure that nothing happened.
Good afternoon.
Excuse me?
You've been up on,
Yeah, I work for the Lisa McPherson Trust. These fellas came into town and just asked me to come along as backup. Okay.
Oh, now he wants all your ideas. That turned around quick.
Yeah, he did. He hit the camera.
Let me see everybody's ID. Driver's license, ID card, what do you got?
There you go. Now, in a moment, I'm going to turn off the video camera after Officer Kelly expresses some concern about it continuing to run. In fact, Officer Kelly was more concerned about my video camera than he was about the hammer attack. After I turned off the camera, Officer Kelly told me it's a felony to record people's voices without their permission.
Oh,
In
boy.
fact, he threatened to arrest me for the footage you just saw.
This is pre-George Floyd era, I guess.
I told Kelly once again that a man attacked us with a hammer and that I had the whole incident on videotape and I could roll it back and show it to him.
Oh, smash it. You better go, I called the cops.
His response to me was a question. Did you inform that gentleman with the hammer that you were recording audio? If not, that's a felony.
Yeah, well, guess what? I'm on the public property too. You wanna start some shit with me?
The next officer on the scene was Officer Holzenbach, who also refused to look at the videotape. Holzenbach is one of the regulars working the white lines on Watterson Street. Scientology pays the officers $21 an hour for a
That's
total
it?
of $178 per day.
They were bought off for
Holzenbach's total
$178
pay
a
for the first
day?
8 months of the year 2000 was $2,848.
Cheap date.
It wasn't until a sergeant arrived on the scene that anyone took a look at this videotape.
Thank you guys for checking out this clip. If you haven't already subscribed, please subscribe and hit the like button on this video. It is a huge, huge help. And if you'd like to check out this clip's full podcast episode, that link is in the description below or right here. And finally, you can follow me on Instagram and X by using the links in my description below.